Welcome to Psychic Holistic Spotlight. This is Bill Hannon, your host tonight. I have three co-hosts tonight: Ken Demers, Josie Way, and Karen Medeiros.
Kathy. And we're going to be talking about health issues. We had wrapped up one show talking about cancer and some of the things that lead up to cancer. Some of us have been having quite an interest because of family members, friends and family that are dealing with this issue. I was a friend with Mark Weiner, one of the people that just made the news when he passed, and also a couple other friends who are very close that have passed. And I just wish I was able to share with them some of the things that I'm aware of concerning ozone therapy. We touched on that on the last subject, but the last show that we had. But one of the things that we wanted to touch also on was nutrition, the digestive system. It's amazing. Some of the research I've done, everybody thinks about serotonin and how it's so beneficial for people to have a positive outlook in how it helps everybody to feel good. And they think there's the pineal gland that makes most of it. In actuality, your gut, your digestive system makes over 80% of the serotonin that your brain uses. Wonderful.
You know, so the thing is that it's wonderful if your digestive system is functioning well enough to produce it. And maybe that's one of the reasons why people with the SAD diet, you know, the American diet is.
How do you, okay, what do you eat to produce it?
Well, basically, again, one of the things we touched about was food high in enzymes, because the enzymes work with our digestive system to break down the foods that we eat to more thoroughly release the nutrients into our system. One thing that many people admire about somebody who is out there and making things happen is a way that they can wolf down their food. And that's actually one of the worst things you can do, because as you chew your food, it releases protease and releases digestive enzymes that helps with starches and also with the...
What's that old saying that you're supposed to chew your food
30 times.
30 I was thinking it was 40 or something.
Yeah, right, yeah. They say you should, each mouthful you should chew 30 times, which most people would consider ridiculous at this point in time. I'm a slow eater.
Well, there's a big love of fast food, which isn't whole and isn't wholesome. It has too much fat, too much sugar. It's too processed.
Right.
It has too many preservatives
Right.
and too many additives
Right.
that our stomachs were not built to utilize, and they don't, and it blocks them, it clogs them, so that they aren't taking in. When you eat something good along with something that's not good, you're not getting all the nourishment from the good stuff, which is your fresh fruits and vegetables, fishes, eggs.
Well, eggs have really
Meats.
taken a beating over the years, but lately the research has shown that really the egg is probably one of the most whole foods that you can eat.
It's energetically, it should be eaten in the evening, not in the morning.
Oh, okay.
And if you were going into Chinese
Yeah.
things, because it's a yang food,
Okay.
which is like should be eaten in
Sure.
the evening, not breakfast.
Sure.
Something new.
Digestion, I mean, eating is a science, you know, and so that's very interesting too.
Yeah.
You
Nobody
know,
does it, but
Yeah,
it's, you know.
Well, but one of the things that we had talked about was getting the enzymes into our system. And one of the ways that we can do it, along with proper chewing habits and eating enough of foods that aren't overcooked or more towards raw, you know, lightly blanched. Al dente is, you know, the term that most people use. And including adding vinegars. I mean, They actually used vinegars as preservatives before we had refrigerators.
Okay,
It
Kathy had-
alkalizes your body, which is a bad environment for certain illnesses like cancers.
Right.
in the previous show, we had talked about slippery elm and heartburn. And while we were transitioning to this show, Kathy was talking about she would use vinegar for heartburn, and then you had gone into the
Put an
apple
acid
cider
back,
and stuff.
yeah.
Talk about that again. That was very interesting.
What happens is, though, with acid reflux or heartburn, knows that our stomach is not, we lost the, stop producing enough acid in the stomach. So using the vinegar, the apple cider vinegar, it actually just puts the acid back into the stomach. So it reduces that level of, of that pain coming back up. And it definitely helps with that. And then you use that as a honey mixture, though, for different things as
I
well.
do. I pre-mix it. This way I always have it on hand. I have a,
I do too.
yeah, good.
Explain what you do.
Well, basically, I have a 2-cup container, and I put in about 10 ounces of honey into my glass measuring cup, Pyrex measuring cup, and I put that into, like, I use that as a double boiler. I just put it into a pot that has hot water in it, and I keep a low heat on it. And I'll stir it every 3 or 4 minutes just to make sure that, it's warming up. And once it becomes very liquidy, you can add the balance to make 2 full cups. So I start off with
Balance of vinegar.
yeah, right. So I said before 10 ounces, 12 ounces of honey. That's too much.
Yeah.
Right, that'd be too sweet.
A little too
But
much.
6 ounces roughly of honey to about 10 ounces of apple cider vinegar. Now, again, by mixing these two together, we are able to have access to it every time, and the vinegar is not so harsh on the digestive system if you were to take it by itself. I typically would put it into a short glass of water, 2 tablespoons and about 6 ounces of water, and drink that. You're adding enzymes right back into your system from the apples. The old
It's apple cider vinegar.
the apple cider vinegar, the old adage of
Can you go into a grocery store and buy apple cider vinegar?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. The thing is that you have Stop and Shop, and all these markets have it by the quart, but the thing, or even by
But they're-
pint size,
It's pasteurized.
is pasteurized, right? And so you want to stay away from that. You look for a brand called Bragg's apple cider. And Bragg's, Paul Bragg, his daughter Patricia, they made it very common for people to follow this procedure, and this was back in the 30s and 40s. But it's still out there. You can get Bragg's
Where?
at most of your stores. All your health food stores will carry Bragg's apple cider vinegar.
And hasn't been pasteurized, so it still has the
Active enzymes. In other words, when it's pasteurized, the heat kills the enzymes. And so what you're trying to do is, most people don't realize that when their stomach is upset and they're getting heartburn, they grab for the Tums because they want to calm everything down, but they don't realize that the reason why they have more than likely, most of the time, they're having acid upset stomach is because there's not enough acid in the stomach to digest the food. So it's just sitting there putrefying. And so it keeps burping up, and then it becomes splashed up on your esophagus, and you're in pain. By taking the couple tablespoons of the mixture I just described to you into a short glass of water and drinking that down, within 5 minutes your heartburn will be gone. Because the enzymes are now starting to help your digestion break it down, and the acid has been fortified in your system now to help aid your...
I find this interesting. 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, I don't know, Channel 10 did a thing on heartburn, and they went through all the different medicines. And the woman that did it, she's still on the show today, I happened to run into her at a function.
Sure.
And I says, well, how come you didn't mention slippery elm? She says, oh, it can't be proven. or it's not consistent, or it's
Yeah.
not this or that.
Right.
So that's why they only talked about the,
The FDA regulated medicines.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
the
Yeah.
Well, even
Same
then,
thing of what, never heard of what you're talking about.
sure.
But you can take something as simple as peppermint. Chew on a peppermint leaf for
Well,
your
you
digestion.
have to be careful with peppermint, because what peppermint does is it relaxes the sphincter muscle from the esophagus.
Also,
into-
it could splash higher.
So it relaxes that muscle, so now that it's easier for you, if you're laying back. A lot of people, they eat dinner and then they lay back and watch TV and they're wondering why they're getting acid reflux. All right, well, for the reasons that I mentioned, but the fact that they're laying down and then they take a mint lozenge or something like that, and after dinner mint, it relaxes the sphincter muscle, and now you're more likely to get a backwash up through the esophagus, which now leads to the heartburn. So actually, mint is not one of the better things to do.
I'm curiosity. I kind of come from an English type family where we had French fries with vinegar.
Yes.
What would be the historics of that? Is that a particular
Well, the next,
old-fashioned?
one thing that I do is even if I have a baked potato, I'll use that apple cider vinegar and honey, and I'll just put a tablespoon on each of the halves of the potato. And boy, oh boy, you talk about tasty.
And the sweet potato would be even better.
Right, but the thing is that what you're doing with the French fries is that the vinegar is actually breaking down the oils, and it's helping your digestive system now.
The fish and chips with the vinegar,
Right,
oily
exactly.
fish.
Right, exactly. It's breaking down the oil, so now it's easier for your system to finish digesting, especially your starch. You need amylase, you need a different type of digestive, and typically, Irish, meat
Yeah,
and
they have a
potato.
couple of potatoes.
Meat and potato, that's the typical Irish dinner. All right, but the thing is, actually, for best digestion, you really shouldn't eat too many starches with protein. You should focus more on protein at one dinner, and you have to be fanatic about this. It's just something to be aware of. You find that if you focus more on proteins at one dinner with a salad, and then starches at another dinner with fruit, that usually has a better digestion process for you. You're less likely to get any type of acid reflux.
Listening to you talk about different, I'm thinking in terms of where they used to have 7-course meals.
Yeah.
These would be all different types of foods, I guess?
Right, and a lot of times, though, they would bring something in between to wash
Yeah.
it down. It would be something that would aid in the digestion process. A lot of people aren't aware, but usually when there's a 7-course dinner, there's usually a little something that might come in between, some type of, something to drink or something to sip that will actually help in the digestion process, different teas or something sweet, depending on what it is you just ate. It's very.
So there was a method to the madness.
Well, it's a method to the madness, but also, those portions typically are smaller portions, so it's easy for your system to digest it. It's usually something that you sit down and you eat over an hour and a half period type of thing, instead of just sitting down for a 15-minute,
It's a
wolfing
full
down
meal.
a burger or something like that.
Going back to what Josie had said a while ago about the fast foods, a close friend of mine had the giant hamburgers. I think he had 2 of them, maybe. Put him in the hospital because it just completely clogged up his system.
Well, he obviously had done something before that.
No,
There
these
was-
but these were
No,
the
I don't mean
giant-
that. I'm saying he may have had a history
No.
of eating stuff like that.
Well, hamburgers, yeah, young man. But he had 2 of those giant hamburgers, and for all practical purposes, within a day or so, he was in the hospital.
Yeah, well, there's a young man that did a thing called Biggie Size. And he
Did
made
what?
Biggie Size me.
Big
Size me,
Okay,
or
big
Biggie Size or
okay.
something. He tested the validity of how bad are these foods. And he was going to eat fast food 2 meals a day for 2 or 3 months to see what effect it had. He had to stop. Before 2 months, his doctor took him off that because his cholesterol had gotten so very high, and he was so very sick. And the theory was he would just eat a regular fast food burger meal, but anytime somebody asked them if he would like to have the big size, he would order it. And that nearly killed him in less than 2 months.
Yeah, there was a lot of.
And there's a film.
I remember hearing something about that too. There was a lot of adverse reactions to his body though too. He was starting to
Yeah.
grow a big belly from that, and he was getting very lethargic as a result from that too. So there's a lot of bad results from that though.
Yeah.
Not just the cholesterol.
Well, no, he was feeling rather ill.
Yeah. Yeah, making very lethargic, definitely eating so
You know,
badly.
I guess, I used to read a lot of stuff about the Old West. And the trappers would go out and they would set up in the wintertime. And these two trappers, they had a big cache of meat. And two Indians from what, I don't know which tribe, I can't remember, they came in and they were hungry, so the white men wanted to feed them to keep good relations. These two Indians ate 250 pounds of meat up to noontime. And then they went out for half an hour or so. They probably threw it all up. And they came back in and did it again. These two trappers had a winter's worth of food.
Yeah.
These two guys ate it in one day.
Yeah.
Just to make them leave.
Right.
They had to pack up their stuff and leave
Right.
because they no longer had any food. But they ate like just
So much.
just unbelievable amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Eating that
what
much.
the purpose of all of that was, just
To make the trappers leave.
to make the trappers leave.
The Indians didn't want them in their territory, so they did it peaceably. They ate them out of house and home, as it were. Like a
Yeah, well,
teenager.
I'm sure they pay the price for what they did.
I have I was with her yesterday, this weekend. One of my nieces is an herbalist, not an herbalist, a dietary technician. And she's got a 14-year-old son who's long, tall, and lanky. Nice-looking boy. Not an ounce of fat on him. Singer, soccer, does everything. She says he's eating 3,500 calories a day. She keeps track of it, what he's doing. But there's not an ounce of fat on him. He's just burning it off in all these activities. and
Very
stuff.
active. Yeah, that's what helps with the whole health thing, though, and that we've been discussing. Though it's like you have to eat right, but yet we have to be active too, though, because that's what helps with it's hand in hand.
Yeah.
With
And that's
with the
one
health.
of the things that, again, a lot of people that come down with issues such as cancer, of course not all, but it's more predominant in people that are very sedentary.
Sedentary.
If you get up and you're walking, if you're walking the dog, if you go out and you're more active than that, such as doing a swim or jogging a little bit, the whole idea is what you're doing is you're oxygenating the cells in your body. You're having a healthy exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide.
Right.
And what you're doing is you're throwing off the carbon dioxide and you're pulling in the oxygen, and it's going into your blood and it's
And it's
saturating.
cleansing your entire
Saturate-
body.
We started talking about the ozone before the oxygen.
Yes.
And you never really went into an explanation of how that's helping.
Right. Well, it's very interesting. It's anybody can do research on this. I want people to research this on their own. Don't just listen for somebody to come up and share information with you. You have to do your own research to get a handle on this. Don't go just to one site and take everything as gospel truth. You have to go through many different sites. Go to PubMed, which is a government site where they actually publish the studies. And the nice thing about this, you can just open up the study, you can scroll down, and they can show you what it is they were trying to accomplish. They tell you how they did it, how many people were involved, what the outcome was, and then they give you a summary or a conclusion. Underneath that, they give you tons of references. This is very easy for people to find out on their own. Ozone therapy.
How does it help?
Ozone therapy basically helps by saturating the body with oxygen. There are several different ways that you can do it. Everybody knows that by watching different movies or hearing through medical sources that if somebody were to get a bubble of oxygen, such as a shot of atmospheric air into a vein, it will cause an embolism and they would have a heart attack and probably die.
Yeah.
Okay. You could take a tube of ozone, and because it is O3 instead of O2 or CO2 or nitrogen or anything like this, it's just pure O3, you can put it directly in the vein. And it is absorbed so fast that it never has a chance to form a bubble in the blood. That's one way.
Can you just breathe it in, though?
Well, it's kind of tough on the oxygen, on your alveoli in the actual lungs, but there is a way that they do it, and it's basically through one chamber. You have an ozone generator, which runs off a tank of oxygen. So you're using O2, feeds the ozone generator. The ozone generator puts it into a canister, usually a glass canister, and it goes from there into another canister that has oil in it, such as olive oil, avocado oil, and then there's a mask that comes off the top of this tube, and you set it for
A what?
a mask,
A mask.
breathing mask.
Oh, okay.
And so by diffusing the oxygen through the oil, you're saturating the oil in the first place, so it can be used later for topical applications. But it can also, what it does is it allows you to inhale the gas coming out of the oil canister. There's also another way you can bag a limb, such as somebody who has a diabetic foot or a diabetic leg. You can bag it and just basically pump ozone into it. And what it
Speed up
does,
the
It's going to get
healing.
absorbed in.
it gets absorbed by the tissue, but the nice thing about it is that it's not corrosive. Your body's using what it needs for it. You leave it in the bag for 15, 20 minutes. You stop the ozone therapy. You take the foot out of the bag. But what it's doing is it's permeating through all the tissue and doing it that way. There's also another way, and this may be hard for people to imagine because of the area of the body that we're talking, but the colon is a tube in the body that can be absorbed. You can pump a gas into it. It's covered with veins, a good blood supply, and basically you put in about. Again, this is all done medically. You put in about 0.7 to 1 liter of the gas, and it just gets absorbed by the body, and your blood picks it up and carries it through your whole system, and it doesn't matter where you may be having issues, not just cancer, not just HIV, but now they're using it, it's oxygenating the brain. It's, all right, it's actually being used for issues such as MS, MD, getting back to cancers like uterine cancer, prostate cancer, cancers that are hard to reach, pancreas cancer.
Back up just a second. MS, MD, these diseases are sometimes caused by babies at birth not getting enough oxygen.
Well, I think
If that were true, if I'm not it's not my thing,
sure.
but if they suspected that was happening, could they reverse that at that point by giving them?
Again, every case would be different. You might get some relief. I don't think it would reverse any case, but I think that it would definitely slow down any of the actual symptoms of this. But it's just thoroughly interesting to do your own research and just look up cancer and ozone therapy.
Now,
Diabetes, they're finding fantastic results using this for diabetes. And what a very, very good way for you to, unfortunately, the people that I was talking about before who I knew who were having issues with cancer, I was actually in the process of looking up people that, you know who actually does it? Is there actually licensed people in the state? Dentist. To healing gum disease.
oh,
Okay? Veterinarians, they'll let you use it on your pet, but they're not going to let you use it on you.
40, 50 years ago, there was some guy down in the Ozark Mountains of Pennsylvania or someplace.
Yeah, that's out west, but yeah.
He had an organ.
Oregon,
Was
yes.
that the same kind of critter?
I think it was related. Yeah. No. It's
No,
not. That's right.
it's
The
an
I know the
Oregon-
government shut it down like,
Yeah. Well,
we don't
right.
want anybody doing anything about this. They destroyed all the information on it.
Well, I have a lot of information on
He
that.
was getting good results. I know
That's
that.
right, and that's right, and it basically was healing the planet, healing the atmosphere. You would put them in geometric.
No, he
Points
was
of-
using these on people.
Yeah, you can, but I'm just saying that one of the ways they could get past the government using it on people was by saying they were using it on their property for healing the earth. But yeah, you could use it for. Or yes, Bob Baxter is one person who we've had on the show who knows a lot about that.
Oh, not the TV host Bob Baxter. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing is that, there's so many different therapies out there, but there are actual doctors out there. And there's a Maryland Ozone Therapy Institute. All right.
Because I was going to ask you,
These are actual doctors.
how do you
that-
find doctors?
Right. Apparently, there's so many people bugging the FDA about it that they okayed something like 120 doctors to do research on it. And I guess this is one of the guys. Before that, I mean, you could only find dentists who would just use it orally, and you'd get benefit from that. But also for veterinarians, like I said, they'll let you use it on your pets, but they won't let you use it.
Now, I know they clean swimming pools with it.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
If you fill up your swimming pool
Yes.
with this water,
Yes.
and you're in the water, what
That's
does
correct.
it do?
You pick up the extra oxygen. It is a good way to oxygenate your body.
So if you have a small container, bathtub,
Yeah.
and you fill that up with,
Well, how about a hot tub? I mean, ozonators are usually built into hot tubs just for that reason, just for the reason of keeping bacteria under control. All right? So the thing is that there's a lot of different applications out there. That's why I tell everybody, go out there and do your own research. There are doctors that are doing this research that are being okay. One of the most effective ways that they're doing it right now is they're actually withdrawing blood from a person, for the sake of discussion, half a pint of blood. And then they turn around and in a pressurized bag, they add 60 cc's of ozone. They put it in a
put it
machine, they
back.
shake it. This machine shakes it. The blood integrates all the ozone in the bag. They put it back into the person, and it causes a cascading effect that wipes out pathogens in the body, viruses, bacteria.
when you do a blood transfusion, they take what, a pint?
Yeah.
Usually.
So what they do is they go from, transfusion is from one source to another. I know people
Yeah,
that.
no, that's, okay.
Right. You're
Getting your
off
own
track.
back.
Right. The whole idea is you want people to know that there are doctors out there that are actually taking blood, infusing it with ozone, putting it back into the body, and it's having tremendous healing effects. So,
No, I was trying to put
all right.
in reference to something.
Yeah.
I know that they take a certain amount out of the body. I wasn't sure how much.
Right. When I donate a pint.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're taking half of that amount.
Right,
And
exactly.
oxygenating it.
Right. So thank you very much for watching Psychic Holistic Spotlight, and we will hopefully see you again soon. Do your own research. It's out there. It's easy for everybody to access.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for